Hi, this is the Assessment Task 2 video explanation for EDF4004. Now, this assessment task is about communicating curriculum assessment and policy in schools, and it's worth 40%. Now, the idea behind this particular assessment task is that you are going to create, there's going to be two components, each worth 20%. One is a written report on student progress, and then the second is a mock three-way interview or conference with a student and his parents, his or her parents, to communicate the progress. So really the report will be kind of a springboard to what you're actually going to discuss in the conference. But the idea is that you're going to report on a hypothetical student. So you don't need to gather data or have a student take your assessment task 1. But you're going to think of a student, a hypothetical student. Maybe it's based on yourself when you were in high school. Maybe it's based on a student that you have noticed in your placement. But basically, this person, you're going to pretend you don't actually have to fill out your assessment task that you turned in for assessment task 1. But you're going to pretend that they have taken your assessment task, and you're going to use this to be able to communicate in both the written form and then to parents and the student about where the student is at. Now, notice that we're talking about curriculum assessment and policy. Now, you may not be talking a lot about policy, but if you have anything, if you're in secondary, you might make note of VCE, particularly if it's year 9 or 10, and how this is situating them for VCE. If it's an area that they think that they have potential to take a VCE subject or so on. So that's where the kind of policy fits in. But in general, the idea of this assignment is that you are being able to use all your understanding of curriculum assessment and policy that we have been learning in this unit to be able to communicate with parents in a clear and meaningful way, both in a written form and then also in an interview. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this as we go. Now, the written component, again, is on this hypothetical student in one of your classes. So if it's a year 7 science class, that's fine. You don't have to pretend to put in things for maths and English and so on. It's just science. Now you can break that up in a variety of things. You might break it up based on behaviors or based on concepts or summative tests. So again, there is room here to make up information. So while you might draw from the evidence in your assessment task 1, because you actually know it's on that, you can pretend that there's other assessment tasks if you want. But again, you're just kind of creating a report. There is a sample report on Moodle, which is in PDF form, but if you look at the week 1 content and you just go right above that, you'll find that there's a sample of a report, and that's in Word format, Word document format. So it's basically that sample PDF has been converted into a Word document, so you can use that to play around with. So really for the report, you're doing 3 main things, and this is evident in the rubric. One is interpreting and explaining the student's assessment data or evidence, and this is from their hypothetical performance on assessment task 1. Now again, you can pretend there's other assessment tasks if you want, but I would be drawing from also that assessment task 1. And what I mean by this is, for example, saying, well, Tom, I noticed in his, unit test on blah, 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 he did really well in the first section. And I think this is because he has a really strong sense of key terminology. However, when it had to be applied to a concept, he really struggled. And so this is an area, while he knows the key concepts, we know that's a strength, he really needs to improve on application, okay, something like that. So you're using the different components of your assessment task to be able to kind of draw from the evidence of their performance, how well, like what areas, and again, this goes next to the constructive feedback, but what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses. So, and then the next part of that is that from the interpretation of where they're at, how do we give in the report constructive and targeted feedback for future learning? So what do they need to do next? What specific and concrete things what is strong, what is weak, and what do they need to do next? Where are they at? Where are they going? Where have they been? And then again, the last thing is the report needs to have a high standard of English language. So this is a big thing. If you have spelling mistakes or you use the wrong name, parents notice that, and it's not a very good thing. Now for the rubric, again, it follows those three different key ideas. So interpreting and explaining the student assessment data evidence. And it's being able to, for HDs, it's being able to be very clear and have an explanation that's valid for this particular readership. So parents and students are not using a lot of teacher jargon, making it clear so that they understand where their child is at. Both the child knows where they're at and also the parent. So really, providing clear evidence. Now the difference between HD and D, I think HD was where you go, wow, like I could not have said it any better. D is really fantastic, but and it's clear and easy to understand. But I think HD takes that extra level to really make it meaningful and purposeful for parents and students, and really clear links back to the test or tests if you pretend to make up others. But again, you don't have to make up other tests, but you can refer to other tests that they have taken or assessment tasks. The second section about the constructive and targeted feedback. So how have you communicated this very clearly and specifically about future learning? Does that make sense? Is it not over the top too much, but clear? Because that's the other thing, is you don't want to go on and on about a report. Parents need to see it in a very clear and easy format. And then again, the English language. Now, the second part is a mock three-way conference. So that's with the teacher, which will be yourself, a parent, hypothetical parent, and a hypothetical student. Now, this should not be more than 8 minutes max. And you have two ways to present it. You can either do a live version of it in week 12, in your tutorial in week 12. Now for that, you must submit a script, and that's because if I'm marking this in live time, it's really hard for me to catch everything, so I want to have a script so I can look at it. Also, because if you are getting volunteers from the class to help you with this, they will need a script, okay? And we're not looking at a special performance here, but we are more looking at what you have constructed here in this conference and how you have done that. The second option, so is either presenting in week 12 in your tutorial, using volunteers from class, or creating a video recording using your family or friends, but please make sure you ask their permission first and let them know that your tutor will be watching it. Or you can use digital characters. I had one student actually use teddy bears and they did, something. So now one of the things is the files cannot be uploaded directly on Moodle, but what you can do is in your report, you can, maybe the next page after, you can put a link to a Google Doc and put it in Google, or you can do a private version of YouTube. In this conference, what you need to do is similar to what you did in the written format, but face-to-face, where you're communicating, interpreting the data from the assessment task, but really linking of how does this link to the curriculum. So, one of the things that parents they want to know where their child is at. Are they in generally where they're supposed to be, and have they made progress? So if they're at a level 8 level, where have they been in the past? Where are they going? And then how do we get to where we're going? So it's discussing students' strengths and weaknesses and highlighting future learning opportunities and plans. So not only saying this is what the student needs to do, or this is what you as a parent can do to support, but what are you as the teacher doing? What are you actively doing to help support that student? The other aspect of this is really, because this is a three-way conference, you're not just talking at the parents and the student. You need to incorporate in your scripting of this, I guess, that you use questioning techniques and so on to really engage and get parents to be part of the conversation as well as the student. So you're not just talking at them. And then demonstrating effective communication. So is there eye contact? Are you turn taking? Are you, do you actually look, sorry, let me just get this off the screen. Are you actually, are you presentable? Do you look like a teacher? These sorts of things. So these are all things that you need to consider when you think about this assessment task. Okay, here we go. Now this is also provided here in the three-way conference rubric. So again, you have that section of communicating the data, then you have the strengths and weaknesses, engaging with using questioning techniques, really masterfully using, engaging just very easily, and then, demonstrating effective but also respectful communication. So this is your second assignment for EDF4004. I hope this is helpful. Please let us know if you have any questions. Thanks. Bye.